Hey everyone, going to do a quick video today talking about the Australian Points series, which is mirroring the V2 format for F-class shooting in the United States. We're doing that out here now, and also to talk about quickly really making sure you're on top of your gear, because what you see in front of you, for all intents and purposes, is a pretty good looking rifle, or at least that's what I've been told by most people that have seen it up close and personal. Just to give you a quick recap on the specs of this rifle, we have an APS stock out of Italy. Very nice piece of gear. It is fitted with a rad system at the rear. Moving forward, you can see it's got carbon fibre inlays throughout, up to the front, a rail system, which I recommended to Andrea Santacroce when I was researching the ANS stocks. Luckily for me, Andrea was happy to oblige with designing the front rail system, which he now offers as an option on all his stocks. Staying at the front of the gun, the barrel. The barrel is a 32-inch Bartlin. It is a little different from your conventional Bartlins. This one was a custom order I did. It is made in Bartlin's 400 mod steel. It is an 8.5 twist finish at 32 inches long. It has a Dan Bramley tuner fitted at the front. Back to the barrel. It is a 4-groove left-hand twist. So as I said, not your conventional one. Having said that, it shoots. It shoots incredibly well. Sitting on top, we've got a March High Master 10-60 by 56 scope. What more can I say about the March scope? It's awesome. I love it. I have looked through the March Majesta. I do not see the value in spending an additional $2,000 for the Majesta over the High Master. I'm not seeing $2,000 worth of value in it. It's capped off with a set of Gen 3 March rings, sitting on top of a 20 MOA rail, which has made it up to a Borden BRM XD action, dual port. Feed on the right, eject on the left. And it's a Magnum ejection port. This one is my 284 Shaheen setup. This is what I took to Bendigo recently for the first regional match of the Australian Points series. All matches were shot at 1,000 yards. This rifle worked incredibly well all the way up until I made it through to the, I guess you'd call it the quarterfinals, and I got 13 shots into a 15-shot match and suffered a trigger failure. So up until this point I haven't mentioned the trigger. I was running, you can see it on the table, a TriggerTech Diamond. Now the trigger itself didn't actually break. When I eventually made it home, I was able to diagnose the problem. So going back to what happened, I was shooting against John Alp in the quarterfinals. I was up on V count by quite some margin on Alpy. Had a really good read on the conditions. I shot 5 Vs in a row, so the APS series, it's shot under ICFRA rules, so your usual X ring is designated a V ring. For the people in Australia watching this, the 6 ring becomes the 5 ring, the 5 ring becomes the 4 ring, and so on. Same way that they do it in the United States under ICFRA rules with their V2 format, we're doing that here under international rules as well. So I'll talk more about that shortly. So yeah, got 13 shots in. Had a had a lead on Alpi. Looked like I was going to make my way through to the semi-finals comfortably. I sent shot 13 downrange. It came up a 5. I just shot 5 Vs in a row before that. Feeling really good. Gun was working awesome, and then popped a round in. Got ready to shoot shot 14. Pushed the bolt forward, and as I went to close it, it literally sort of then just, if you see here at the back, the cocking piece here automatically depressed itself forward, like so, before the trigger was even pulled. So it was failing to engage the sear on the TriggerTech Diamond. At the time, I didn't really know why, but being 13 shots in to a match that we had a 30-minute time limit for, I didn't have a whole lot of time left. The match director, Matt Peroz, who's also my gunsmith, came over, took a quick look, and within a minute could not diagnose the problem, and there wasn't going to be enough time to fix the problem. So I did have a backup rifle. I had my 6mm GT with me. Ran to the boot of the car, ran back with the rifle, plonked it down on the mound with a couple of minutes to spare, and with no optional sighters, took a best guess as far as wind is concerned, and just leaked a 4 to the right of target initially, and then followed up with another 4 on the final shot, shot 15, to the left of target. Elevation was perfect, but the 2 4s, and we're only talking probably I think from looking at the spotting marker that came up, we're probably talking a centimetre outside the 5 ring, but a centimetre outside the 5 ring is in the 4 ring, not where I want it to be, and that brought my APS series to an unfortunate end. I was in good spirits. It's never good being beaten by your equipment. You always want to be beaten by your opponent. And, Alpi got up and said, it's not the way he wanted to win either. Because for all intents and purposes, I probably would have gone on to win that match. But I didn't. So as nice as this rifle looks, I guess where I'm going at here, for big matches, it's always worthwhile checking over your gear. When I got home from Bendigo, I took the barreled action out of the stock, had a look at the trigger, and with the TriggerTech Diamond, see if we get it into focus here, you see that screw on at the front left? Well, that's your trigger weight adjustment screw. Now at the moment, it's actually an indented screw, so every time you turn it, there's a click. It's worth 0.22 of an ounce each time you click it. That screw, you can see here it's sitting flush. I've got it screwed all the way in. That screw was almost hanging out of the trigger. That is not where I had originally set it. That screw had, over time, gradually worked its way loose to the point where it had worked its way so far out, the bolt, when pushed forward, just slid over the top and wasn't engaging the sear. The trigger pull was set too light beyond what it is capable of. Once I screwed that screw back in and tested it, lo and behold, the rifle worked just fine. Now, you'll notice it's sitting on the table. I have not got another TriggerTech Diamond in there next to it. I have a new trigger. It is a Sidhe Evo Benchrest trigger from Italy to go with the Italian flavour of the stock. So I have 3 TriggerTech Diamond triggers. I've got one on my 6GT and one on my 7-65 PRCW. The PRCW I didn't take to Bendigo. That barrel was being replaced. But I took a look at the barreled action, and the adjustment screw on that one had also worked its way fairly loose. Not to the point where it was failing or failing to fire, but it wasn't far off it. So what I suspect has happened over time with recoil and so forth, I can only put it down to recoil, given that they're not heavy 7mm calibers, but they are moderate. You know, I am throwing down 184 grain Berger hybrids. I think over time the set screw, the adjustment screw has gradually, slowly worked its way loose. As I said, the quarterfinal against John Alp was on the second day of the APS point series. So going back to talk about that quickly, we kicked off on a Sunday in Bendigo. My first matchup was against Alistair Lamore. Very tough match. Alistair was on the Australian F Open team that went to South Africa last year and finished third at the Worlds. And lovely guy. I had not actually met Alistair before. And I guess on that note, I think one thing I really like about the F-class fraternity is how friendly and accommodating everyone is. And I met some lovely people at Bendigo that I had not met before. Some of them had heard of me. Some of them had, subscribed to my channel here. So for anyone that's watching, hello, thanks for supporting. Hope you do find or take away something interesting out of this. So yeah, Alistair, got down in match 1 against Alistair. I took the first stage against Alistair. Shot a clean score at 1,000 yards. Alistair dropped his last shot. And Alistair turned the tables on me in stage 2. I think I dropped 2 shots, maybe 3 shots. Alistair maybe dropped 1 from memory, but I think he came away in the second stage with, I think he was 2 points clear of me. And that took it to a deciding third stage. That third stage, I dropped a 4 early on my first shot. Alistair got out of the blocks pretty hot. I think he shot 2 or 3 V-balls in a row, then a couple of 5s. And midway through that match, it was looking like I was going to fall out into the losers round or the repechage round. But late in Alistair's stage, he shot. He actually shot a 3. There was a big wind change out there, and followed it up with a 4, and that gave me a window of opportunity. I had managed to remain clean after my first scoring shot was a 4, and all I needed were two bulleye 5s, and would have taken the third stage and moved through stayed in the winners bracket and moved through to the next round. As it was, the wind change that caught Alistair also caught me. There was a change in the mirage. I didn't pick it. I've never shot Bendigo rifle range before, so I guess the intricacies for how that range works was all very, very new to me, and I was still very much in a learning phase. So I ended up shooting 2 4s. I didn't end up in the 3 ring, thankfully, but yeah, I ended up in the 4 ring, suffering vertical actually. I think Alistair's shots were more sort of windage. Mine was vertical, so whatever change was in the mirage, and had a quick chat with Alistair about it afterwards. He saw the change, which I sort of didn't. He is a Victorian and has a bit more local range knowledge down there than I do, and yeah, it was probably something when you've got a 45-second time limit. Could I have waited that change out? Maybe not. You do have to, obviously, the challenge of the APS series, the V2 format, is 45 seconds. You've got to make a win call. And as it turned out, over the 2 days in Bendigo, the wind did not stay constant at any stage. It was constantly changing. We had I guess almost a predominant right to left condition that would pick up and drop off on day 1, and then on day 2 that right to left condition was still there, but it also threw in a left to right condition. So probably almost every 45 seconds, really, when you had that time limit to take your shot, the wind would change again. In terms of direction and speed. And at 1,000 yards, you're a long way out. Those changes matter. There are a lot of good shooters going from the 5 ring or the V ring out to shooting 4s, 3s, and some competitors were unlucky enough to even shoot 2s. Such were the dramatic changes, I guess, in the wind condition. If you weren't on it, it could really punish you. So yeah, after losing my first match to Alistair, which was a really good match, a really close match, despite losing it, I thoroughly enjoyed it. But that put me into the losers bracket where I had to fight through, I guess, in sudden death from that point forward. Match 2, I was up against a young up-and-coming F-Class Open shooter from Victoria, Noah Parkinson. I just kept my head down for that one and took down Noah in 2 consecutive stages. He was shooting a 284 Winchester. I was just obviously running what you see here in front of you, running my 284 Shaheen. Moved through then to a single stage 15-shot match against another local Victorian shooter, Joe Melbourne, lovely guy. And Joe was running a 6.5 Creedmoor from memory. And actually, it wasn't a single shot 15, it wasn't a 15 round match. It was best of 3 stages again. My apologies. So 2 optional siders and 10 scoring shots. I took the first stage comfortably against Joe. Second stage, however, he reversed the tables on me. I dropped 3 or 4 shots into the 4 ring there. The conditions were actually quite funny. The wind speed dropped, but there were just these little subtle flicks, and I think Joe had a better read on the Mirage than I did for that second stage. And yeah, his Creedmoor in that condition worked really well. And again, I think I was just still trying to work out how much value there was in those changes, and there was enough change to put me in the 4 ring. So I had a little bit of a think about it after that second stage, and the 284 Shaheen, the barrel was pretty hot at that point. The condition was dropping even further. The flags were quite still at this point, and I had my 6mm GT as a backup rifle. So I pulled that one out. I thought, let's have some fun here at least. Don't die wondering. And used the 6GT in the third and final stage against Joe. And I had not used the 6GT beyond 700 metres leading into the APS series. I did zero it at 1,000 metres when we checked into the range, and it seemed to hold the V ring just fine, and that is exactly what it did in the third stage. I did drop 2 shots into the 4 ring, but they weren't elevation, they were just little subtle wind flicks. But I came away with a 48 with 5 Vs, and Joe again, I think the change caught him out, certainly caught him out more than myself. I think he dropped 5 or 6 points in that third and final stage. So I won that third stage comfortably, and got through to my 4th match on that afternoon on day 1. I did use the Shaheen again for that one. It was a 15-shot match, 2 optional siders and 15 shots to count. I was up against Stuart Braund. Stuart, again, he was on the Australian F Open team. Great shooter. Nice guy. He had a beautiful looking rifle as well, I might add. I think he had a Spear of Destiny style, like a Speedy Gonzalez Spear of Destiny style stock. Managed to get that, I think, from Cirrus. So I think, yeah, we're probably the only 2 guys in Australia to have Cirrus stocks. Mine's a different, if you've seen any of the other videos, mine's a different shape to the Spear of Destiny. Having said that, Stuart was running a 7mm Storm, and I was continuing with the Shaheen. And I had a really good read on the conditions in this last match for the day. I only dropped 2 shots in that 15-shot match. I shot a 73 with 7, and to my surprise, Stuart dropped a few more. I think he may have dropped 6 shots in that one. So I got up very, very, very happy. And not that you're shooting for aggregate in the APS series, it's just you and your competitor. So, you could drop 5 or 6 points depending on, the conditions, etc. But if your competitor drops one more point than you, well, unfortunately for them, they're out and you get to go through. So that's the part of the beauty of it. And I think I actually had the highest aggregate for that last match on the Sunday afternoon. So really, really pleased with myself, and survived to get through to day 2. Day 2, first match, I was up against Frog Low. Frog Low is a bit of a legend in the F-class shooting here in Australia. Lovely guy from up in Queensland. I'd never met him before. He was running a 7mm Storm, and I was probably a little nervous going into this one because Frog's reputation is it's up there. He's a very well regarded F-open shooter. For me, once we fired our sighting shots, I just seemed to sort of calm down, and again shot really, really well. And the wind was doing a bit more on day 2, but I don't know, at this stage I just seem to have things a lot more figured out, and went through. I only dropped a couple of shots in that one, and Frog, I think I beat Frog by 6 points in that match. It was quite significant, and it's not, this is not me bragging or anything like that, but I was just really happy with how the gun was performing, how I was performing. I was just in a good state of mind, enjoying the format of the competition, as I think everyone was. The format was just awesome. And then went through to face a local Victorian shooter, Steve Nelson. Conditions for that match were really choppy. We both dropped a few points. I think I dropped 9 points in that match, and was thinking, oh golly, if I get away with this one, it'll be a miracle. Steve dropped even more. I think he ended up dropping 15 points. It was quite brutal. There were people up and down the range. You could just hear a lot of 4s and 3s and the occasional 2 being called out. And really, really sort of flicky wind shifts. We had a right to left, then it would go left to right. And that value, if you missed it, it could be up to... I found my adjustments, my holds, generally on average sort of between 2 to 2.5 minutes of value when the changes came through like that. So, you had to be on it and keep your head down to stay in the game. But yeah, I got through that match against Steve, and that's when I came up against my good friend John Alp. John Alp shoots at my local range. And again, as I mentioned earlier, I was up on V-balls and looking like I was going to be heading through for a semi-final berth before the TriggerTech Diamond decided it didn't want to work. So that's probably all I really wanted to talk about for this video. It's really just a reminder for people, no matter how good your gear is, everything I've got here is top shelf. It pays to really go over your gear before big matches. If this happened in a weekend club shoot, it would, I wouldn't be phased in the slightest. You can get away and take your time to sit down, and you're not shooting for sheep stations or major prizes or anything like that. But when you go away to a big match, you're paying money to enter. You're paying for accommodation. You have good prizes on the table. Like the winner, ultimate winner, Lewis Reynolds, picked up a Seb Mini rest. That's a $2,000 front rest that he picked up. So the prize table for the APS series is awesome. And I felt like I was a genuine chance of potentially making it through to the final the way I was shooting. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, of course, but the way the rifle was performing, the way I was performing, I would have given myself every chance, because John Alp went on to finish third. He shot really well, and then backed it up at the Victorian Kings a week later, and came second there. And congratulations, Alpy, mate. Fantastic shooting. Shout out to you on this one. But yeah, we'll leave it there. I'll probably look to try and do another video in a few weeks' time. I've just got a new barrel on the PRCW chambered up and starting to go through load development on that. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you found this one informative, and catch you next time.